I put up a piece a few minutes ago about um, a story put out by Jacob Rees-Mogg and a young lad called Andre. And it was about racism and about repeating a joke that had been written by Roald Dahl in a book, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. Education is not mere indoctrination, but a deliberate, reasoned cultivation of the intellect and the character. And I think education is where we should be dealing with what now is described as hate crime, and we should be fostering inclusion rather than exclusion. And education, the word itself offers a clue from the Latin educere, and to lead out, educare or educere, the two possibilities. It suggests drawing out potential, not cramming in dogma. Education is the art of leading students out of ignorance and prejudice towards understanding, reflection, and independent judgment. And this is why it's a mistake to see calls for education about language, inclusivity, and community simply as a transferring of policing from the bobby to the teacher. The teacher's role is not to enforce conformity like a constable, to invite students instead to interrogate principles. Why do certain words exclude? Why does kindness matter? This is not a matter of forbidding speech by fiat, but of examining it with reason. And Latin is a perfect example of education's value. Studying Latin roots gives us a foundation for understanding the structure of language itself, and particularly of English. It's not nostalgia or snobbery, but a rigorous discipline that reveals how meaning, grammar, and syntax function. Knowing Latin helps us see connections across Romance languages, to appreciate English's hybrid richness, and to read with care. Language then becomes not a chaotic jumble of grunts, but an ordered system of rules, nuances, and history. History and etymology ground us. They show us that words are not arbitrary noises, but vessels of thought, culture, and community. They teach us that meanings shift, but do so for reasons or for historical movements. This gives language dignity and weight and helps us to use it more responsibly. Polyglots deserve our praise precisely because they show what education can achieve. They demonstrate mental flexibility. They demonstrate an ability to the synapses to not to seize on just one solution, but many. Empathy for other cultures, the capacity to see the world from multiple perspectives. In an age where that prizes parochial certainty, the polyglot is a living rebuke to narrow-mindedness. And the classics, too, offer not just old stories, but training in logic, in rhetoric, in ethics, and aesthetic judgment. They are not to be worshipped uncritically, but engaged with, argued over, learned from. They remind us that human problems are rarely new and that the careful thought matters. That's why Stephen Fry's book on the Odyssey, the retelling of the Odyssey, is so thrilling. It's now out in paperback, I noticed in W.H. Smith the other day. Ultimately, education must be a safe space for discovery. Not safe in the sense of sheltering students from difficult ideas, but in protecting the freedom to test ideas, to make mistakes, to revise one's views. The idea of giving somebody a detention for quoting Roald Dahl is simply laughable, if it weren't also painful. The boy Andre was clearly in pain, even recounting that story. He said that he was made to feel like a victim. He was victimized. He was bullied. And that is repulsive, utterly repulsive. And Rees-Mogg is quite right to call that out. Education should foster mutual respect, not suspicion. If you go back to The King and I and that wonderful song, the prelude to Getting to Know, the bit of recitative just before the song Getting to Know You. When you become a teacher, by your pupils you'll be taught. I've never gone into a classroom where I've come out and felt that I haven't learned something. I've always learned something, and often it's a sense of regret that I didn't do something or I didn't say something. But that's learning in itself, isn't it? And We need to protect the freedom to make mistakes, to revise our views. We need to foster mutual respect, not suspicion. In learning about language, including inclusive and exclusive forms, we shouldn't be policing thought, but expanding thought. We need to develop a generation who can think carefully about what they say and why they say it, who can understand that the jokes and the comments of the past and the visuals of the past are loaded with racism and exclusion. But that doesn't need to be the case. And we don't need to be thought policed in the future. We just need to be educated. That is our job. We have got so obsessed with education being about information and the indoctrination of information that we've forgotten what real education is about. Real education is about testing information, about asking questions, about chipping away at the block of knowledge until you find something worth keeping. And in the end, all the rubbish about the books we studied when we were doing O-level or GCSE or A-level or at university, those don't matter. What matters is the principles that we used to examine those books, the principles of mathematics, the principles of physics, the principles of analytical examination. And I think a lot of the nonsense in education today goes back to the distinction between the arts and the sciences, which is so pathetic. And schools need to grow up if they continue to promote this nonsense. The same nonsense is of course promoted by this is a STEM subject and this is not. All subjects should be taught to the same level of responsibility. All subjects are like little doors into a great palace of education. It doesn't matter whether that door is marked with mathematics, English, or needlework, as long as when you go through that door you are taught the rigours of analysis and practicality and creativity and examination, so that you can apply those principles to an ever-changing world. The old idea that you go in at one end of the school system like a Model T Ford conveyor belt, like a Model T Ford factory. You go in as a child and you come out at the other end with a degree, and you are then suited to do one particular job for the rest of your life. This is stupid. This is not education for the modern world. Education for the modern world is an education in adaptability and in questioning and teasing the truth out of any sentence, out of any meaning, out of any word, out of any interaction.